This is a labor market consultation, and what does that mean? It means anytime you have people finding jobs or creating jobs, you have a relationship between the employer and the employee. And so a lot of that is about, well, are you trained to do the job? That's where government gets involved. It gets involved in the training process. And so we want to make sure that we have lots of workers, because that makes everybody happy. In terms of the employer, he's got people there to do whatever it is he does. And that we have lots of employees, that means everybody has a job. So it's balancing those two and making sure that we get them to work nicely together. It's not as easy as 1 + 1 = 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 = 16. Because you want to create multiple jobs, but you also need multiple employees to get the job done. So it's all about getting that balance together and the problems and what can we do to make it work better, the whole system work better. We haven't looked at these agreements since 1997. The workplace and the job market has changed a little bit since 1997 when we didn't have cell phones. Think about it. How come it's taken so long to do this? The money comes mostly from the federal government, but in 1997 they signed agreements that devolved it to the provinces, and I guess they thought that was a permanent fix because nobody's really come back to it since then. So now we want to review it, we want to modernize it, we want to make the system more flexible so that it can work better. But if we're going to do this, we want to talk to the people that are on both sides of that equation. So we have people that represent employees and employers today, and we try and get those two things, get the input from them. And some rural issues are often quite different than urban issues. We've done this in the city. We've done it in the north already, and we got another whole different set of problems and potential solutions. So we're trying to get input from the different marketplaces across Manitoba. There was quite a nice group, but there were employers, employees, people representing employees. There were people that are in the training industry. There were some not-for-profits who often represent people that have issues getting into the workplace. So quite a wide range, really. And someone here from the First Nations, and of course that's an issue for them because they have some special challenges in terms of they're underemployed as compared to the average Manitoban. So we're looking for ways to get better engagement with First Nations and a special set of problems. And they had some interesting thoughts to put forward, and hopefully we can incorporate some of that in the system so we can make the system work better for them too. Well, yeah, we certainly had lots of people here from down Morden Winkler way. We had someone here from Dauphin as well, and all across the region. We're doing another one in Brandon, so we'll limit to how far west it went, simply because they'll be going to Brandon next week, I hope, to do the consultation. We had a few come out from Winnipeg that weren't able to attend the Winnipeg sessions, so they're catching us here. They bring a different perspective. Tends to be larger businesses we heard from in Winnipeg. Here we were hearing a lot more from smaller businesses, and smaller businesses have unique sets of problems. They don't have a professional HR person, right? The boss is probably the HR guy too, so special needs for them. We're hearing a lot of pretty good ideas in terms of specifics. Today the theme would probably have been better communication, which both ways, which is a good message. I would suggest to me that we need to be looking at what I would call a feedback loop, where we hear from them, they hear from us much more often than since 1997, and that's way too slow. But I mean, even as it is, they're feeling like we're not talking to them enough, and that's fair criticism, and so we need to work on that. When it comes to labor issues, I don't know that I'll ever be surprised. Some parts of it work pretty good, but there's some huge gaps. And we mentioned, some sectors have very low employment rates. First Nations were mentioned, younger people were mentioned. One of the ones I guess would be the biggest surprise today, you get to a certain age and you've been in the industry for a while, but the company you work for leaves town. What do you do? So, especially for older people, it's tough to get back into the workplace and retrain. So that was kind of a unique set of situation, and I recognize that that's something we need to look at. Temporary foreign workers is not really in this. It's a separate federal program, but it does relate, because if we're training Canadians to fill a job, then we don't need as many temporary foreign workers. So we talked about the marketplace. the employer and the employees. If we've got our system working perfectly, which nothing ever works perfectly, but if we had it working perfectly, we might not need temporary foreign workers to near the same degree. Temporary foreign worker programs were put in place for short-term shortages historically, but they're being used a little more creatively now. On that, we can do things more creatively, hopefully through our programs, so that we reduce the need for temporary foreign workers. This is a push to get more Manitobans working. We have 4 agreements with the federal government, recovering, and we have to renegotiate them. One was special needs or people that have disabilities, and that's a fairly unique one. And we haven't historically done a lot in regards to that, and that's one I know that at some others consultations we had lots of interest in that. Today a little less so, but that doesn't mean it's not still an issue. I mean, we'll have to look at the total package, but there were significantly different needs, especially the northern one, and we suspected as much when we arranged to have one up there. Some very unique training challenges, remoteness being part of it, the access to the information. The pre-employment stuff was a big one there. What do we do to get people ready for a job? What kind of special programs do we need to put in place? And I made some special reference to a program that had been done up there to help one of the mining industry companies, and they had worked with a group that had 32 people that had really a lot of challenges. They never held a job, they never finished high school, so they had multiple barriers, and through that program they all have jobs and they all have futures, and they're all at 70,000 plus here, so they're good jobs. Well, there's no doubt that there's pent-up demand here in Manitoba to talk about this issue. We've literally been swamped with people that want to talk about it. You saw how many people came up after the meeting that want follow-ups. So definitely there's a lot of people looking to talk about this issue, looking for better working relationship, more partners. What we're going to get nationally, we've had a couple of preliminary conference calls and things like that. Depends a lot what other provinces, I suspect, here. Preliminary before the consultation is just so that we're all on the same song sheet, so to speak, in the consultation process. We heard from other provinces' desire for more flexibility, and I think that that'll be one of the big themes. They won't be as prescribed in the future. I think that'll be fair. Nothing in any budget, but there was lots in the election campaign about doing more of this. I can't give you specifics because the federal government hasn't come out with any specifics in their budget, but they certainly talked during the election campaign about more ability to create jobs in Manitoba and in Canada, and to create job training to go with that. So it was certainly part of the election campaign. That would indicate to me that it should be a priority with them, and if they follow up with dollars where the priorities are, that's what government's all about. It's all about priorities, right?